Hello again, and welcome to Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts, and this morning, this cup of coffee and I are going to talk you through nonprofit website must-haves. Every year, for I don't even know how many years, to be honest with you, I have reviewed collections of websites in different industries. And I do this for a number of reasons. I do it because it gives my team and I creative inspiration as we move forward. But then also, I want to make sure that I am up on trends and I understand the creative ways that other people are solving problems and communicating with their clients' audiences. So this exercise is fun. And it's also really informative to my team and I. And it turns into some of my best read blog posts, believe it or not. So right now, I'm going to go through nonprofit websites. I just reviewed a collection of them. And before I ever start reviewing the websites, I create myself a rubric because I have to have something to grade them by, right? So as a person with a background in education, raised by educators, I need this rubric. It is the lifeline of the evaluation process, right? So today I'm going to go over things that are both on my rubric, but are also not on my rubric that I use to determine what has to be in a nonprofit website. So every client that we work with, we're going to listen to their story and understand their target market. But the things that make their website great are the same things that make all nonprofit websites great. They all have to have these core components in order to communicate with their target audience and be able to make a difference and serve their mission. Now, some of these things are consistent across all industries. They're not just specific to nonprofits. And then others are specific to nonprofits, and it really makes a difference how this part of your website functions and works so that you can actually do what you need to do with your website. Today, I am going to talk you through my 7 must-haves, and I'm going to try to keep it pretty concise because I feel like I could go into each one of these in its own podcast and just really drill down and give you all the nuts and bolts of it. But right now, I want to give you this big picture overview, like a rubric that you can use and go back to your own website or use while you're planning your new website to make sure that you have everything that you need to make your website work for your organization. So let's get to it. You're on a mission and you just need more people to know about it. And whether you're brand new to marketing or a seasoned pro, we are all looking for answers to make marketing decisions with purpose. I'm Monica Pitts, a techie, crafty business owner, mom, and aerial dancer who solves communication challenges through technology. This podcast is all about digging in and going digital. I'll share my marketing know-how and business experience from almost 20 years of misadventures. I'll be your backup dancer so you can stop doubting and get moving towards marketing with purpose. Now, because I am talking about websites today, I feel like I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't let you know about a few of the really amazing website planning resources we have available on mayecreate.com. For example, if you are at the beginning of your website planning journey, you might check out our nonprofit website planning guide. I actually wrote this ebook 15 years ago, and then I recently went back in and updated it all. It tells you how to figure out what to put on your site to communicate with your website visitors so you can start building relationships. It is the 5-phase process that Mayecreate has been using to plan websites for almost 20 years now. So check it out. It's free over at mayecreate.com. And if you're a little bit further in your website planning journey, you might check out our website cost calculator. It will allow you to put in the parameters of your website, and then it will spit out a price for you with an explanation of why it costs what it does. And you don't have to talk to anybody. The tool works as a really good starting point, especially if you're just trying to get your mind wrapped around what kind of budget you need. And also if you're applying for a grant and you need some numbers and you're not sure who you want to work with, or maybe you just want to have a second quote and you don't want to have a second sales meeting. So that's also over at mayecreate.com. And if you click on nonprofit, underneath that there's a resources link, and you can click and get all the different resources that we offer for free to our nonprofit friends. Okay, so enough about all that awesomeness. Let's talk about nonprofit website must-haves. I told you I have seven things that your website must have to work effectively for your organization. Let's start at the very top with number one. Your mission must be clear. Now, I know I just said I was going to talk about websites, and I am. I'm talking about websites right now. I'm not just talking about your mission like in your planning documents. I'm talking about like on your website, on the homepage. One of the very first things you need to tell people is what you do. And I'm not talking about all the flowery language that you use in your normal mission statement that means something to you and doesn't mean something to everyone else. I'm talking about, I want it dumbed down, can't mistake it for anything else mission. It should be extremely clear what you do for people. Now, I know that this can get really hard, especially if you do lots and lots of things, but we need to keep it as specific as possible. You do not have very long to capture someone's attention and keep them on your site. The very fastest way to freak them out, other than having a slow loading site, which we'll talk about that in a minute, is by making it unclear to them what you do. People aren't going to wait around and dig through everything and read every single page in your site to figure out what you do. It needs to be clear. It needs to be on the homepage, and it needs to be something that you can communicate in seconds, not minutes, but seconds. They shouldn't have to watch a video to understand it. So have someone that you don't know read through your mission and give you feedback and tell you if it makes sense to them. It shouldn't be a paragraph. It should be 1 to 2 sentences at the very top of your homepage that people see immediately on arriving that tells them exactly what you do. What's the difference that you make in the world that they need to get behind so that you can make the world a better place? What is that? Put it on your homepage. Make it big, make it easy to read, and make it clear. Okay, so then, number 2, your website should be easy to use. I told you that some of these things were going to be about all websites. All websites should be easy to use. And if your website isn't easy to use, and I mean in 2 ways, one is that obviously it should be easy to use for your users. And it should be easy to use on a phone. Okay, not just on a desktop computer, but on a phone. And I know that it's hard because when we're building our websites, we're doing it on a computer. We're testing it on a computer because we work on a computer every day. But a lot of people are going to come to your website on a phone. So it needs to be super easy to use. And a lot of the things that we put on a page to make it interactive and make it easy to kind of sort through information, well, that doesn't always translate super well to a phone. And so you may have to have an alternate interface for a phone, and don't shy away from that. You need to make sure that it's easy to use for all visitors at all times. I think about that too from an accessibility standpoint. Like I heard a great talk at WordCamp last year where this lady said that all websites should be easy for all people to use all the time. And I thought, well, I mean, but people with disabilities, and I was kind of hemming and hawing back and forth, but then she described it in such a very clear way. She said, every single one of you have disabilities at different times in your life, at different times in your day. She's like, imagine that you are sitting at home and your kids are yelling at you and you're stressed out and all you're trying to do is find a solution on a website. You have a disability right then because you're stressed out and you're freaking out. And a website that's hard to use, that does not meet your needs. So making sure that everyone, from people with disabilities who can't see or people who are colorblind, make sure that they can all use your website. You're going to use a mobile menu just for mobile traffic. Don't use a mobile menu as the main navigation for your website. Some people like to do this and they think that it's modern and fancy and it keeps the top of the website clean. And I think that it's stupid because it makes you click more times to get to what you want. Because on a mobile menu, there isn't just an automatic drop-down menu. You have to click first on the mobile menu. Then you have to click again on the thing that may potentially have a drop down based on some type of icon next to it. And I have to guess whether it has that or not. I mean, a plus sign definitely lets me know. I'm not saying that I don't know, okay? I'm a web developer. I know if it's going to have more options underneath it because we've used like every type of design trick to show people before. However, not everyone knows. So instead of allowing somebody to just scroll over the top of your navigation and see a drop-down menu to choose where they want to go on your site, only having to click once, you're basically forcing people to click 2, 3, or more times to get to the pages that they want. I don't like it. I don't think that you should do it. Now, also make sure that your buttons feel like buttons and your links feel like links. Make sure that your information is logically organized. All these things are items that make a website easy to use. Okay, so I just listed all these things off, right? Saying that there were actually 2 ways that your website needs to be easy to use for your visitor, but it also needs to be easy to use for you. If you're the person who has to update your website all the time and it's difficult to use, your website is not serving your mission because it's taking you away from doing the things that you need to do on a daily basis to make a difference in the world. So you don't want a website that's hard to use. You don't want a website that you have to call a web developer to be able to figure out. Every website that we build at Made Create is built for, I don't want to say the lowest common denominator, but it's built such that anyone in my office can update it as well as my client because I only have one senior level programmer. And if he's the only one that can update the website and he's doing all these menial tasks, then that doesn't really open me up to be able to help more people. It means that he's locked in updating little things on websites all day and he can't build the next greatest, latest thing to be able to help our clients achieve their goals. So make sure that your website is easy for you to use as well. So the third thing that your website must have is a story focus. Now, this is a nonprofit specific thing. There are some businesses that do adopt this methodology as well, but really I see it most often on nonprofit websites. And when I say you have to have a story focused site, what I mean is that your website needs to motivate the viewer to get involved through stories and other rich content. Not just words, but photos and videos and people. It needs to look like someone put serious thought and time into making the site like it's yours. And it doesn't look like every other thing out there. And you're not going to use stock photos because they don't make sense. Your story is not about the weirdos that you found out on the stock photo website. Your story is about you, the things that you serve, the people that you serve, the people that help you serve them. This is the story, right? And so pulling that story throughout the site is important. So I have 2 examples of websites that met all the other criteria for a great website, but couldn't make that 100% A mark because they weren't story-focused websites. One website was an organization that helps educate children in third world countries. Now, they had great content on their website and it was lovely. It was easy to use, super well organized. But the thing that I was missing is those children and the stories and the difference that this organization made by educating them. What difference did it make to their families, to their communities? How did these children grow up to be different because of the education they received due to this organization? I mean, maybe the organization hasn't been around forever, right? But they had this idea, they had this mission and this goal, and I believe in it. I totally believe in it as a daughter of educators. I absolutely believe that their mission is vital to the success of our world. However, I didn't get to meet those kids. I didn't get to see their faces or hear the stories of how this program made a difference in their lives. And I think that they could have told that story through other types of stories, like other lives that have been touched through education, even if they couldn't do it with people that they directly help themselves because their organization is too young. Now, the second example, which is a little more surface level, is I was on a zoo website the other day and they had lovely, lovely pictures of animals. They were so beautiful. You can definitely tell that people are out there every day snapping photos of these critters. And they even had really fun blog content about all the animals there, letting you get to know them. But the thing that they didn't use a lot of is pictures of people. with the animals or at the zoo. Now, I did dig in and I found some eventually, but remember why people go to the zoo. Yeah, I mean, we go because the animals are cool, but we went because we wanted to be with the people that we went with, right? I take my kids to the zoo because I want to see their faces when they see the elephant. I want to hear them ooh and ah over every animal that they see. I'm going because of my children. I'm going because of my family, not necessarily because of the animals, right? So I feel like by not incorporating those people experiencing the zoo into their photos and into the story of the website, they told the stories of the animals and taking care of them, but they don't tell the story of the people enjoying the zoo. And that's why we're going. So 2 different examples, completely different, on how they could have pulled their content through and it made their websites more story focused, which is the 3rd thing, right, that you need to have for a great nonprofit website. Remember that we need to make sure that our mission is clear, it's easy to use, and it's story focused. Okay, so on to number 4, which is you need to have content for each of your target markets. I understand that you guys serve more than one audience, don't you? You have the people that you serve, and you have those who donate, so you can serve those people or that mission. And you might also have your board. You could have a membership. Like there's all kinds of different people, right, that you have to connect with through your website. Now, each type of person deserves to have the content written specifically for them. So what do I mean by this? I mean, like, you should have a donate page that's specifically for donors, and I'll talk through that in a second. But then you would have a volunteer page for each of the different types of volunteer experiences that you have with your organization, talking directly to the types of people that you want to volunteer. And then you would have each of your services that you offer as an organization. They all have to have their own page, and each one of those pages should have around 200 words of content, and you'll include those stories throughout all of these pages. So on your volunteer page, think of your ideal volunteer. See if you can get a testimonial from a new volunteer, from an existing volunteer, and include them on that volunteer page. Or on the services page, you can also provide proof there and stories there, because the people who donate to you and volunteer to you for you will also be looking at your services pages to see, like, what is the difference that you make in people's lives. And the people who apply for your services, they probably also want to know that you're going to make a difference in their lives. They're looking for a way to improve their existence, and you're there to do that for them, right? So including your stories and your proof throughout is important. The goal in each one of these pages that speak to each of your target markets is to allow them to see themselves in your organization, be it as a person that you serve, or a donor, or a volunteer, or a board member, whatever it is. You want people to be able to see themselves involved with your organization. So allow them to find themselves through the testimonials and the photos and the words and the stories and the benefits and the proof that you offer through these pages to each of them. Write it to that person. And then you'll always want to have a way to get people to contact or donate or apply on these pages as well. And I mean, you can just put it at the bottom of the page. You can work it into the top of the page. It's up to you, but definitely give them what they need to take that next step. Maybe it's a phone call or a chat window, whatever it is. Allow them to contact you to learn more. Okay, so number 5 is you need to have a donate page. Yeah. Okay. So, but what does that donate page look like, right? I probably should have put an adjective with that. But so number 5 is your donate page. So I feel like a good donate page shares a story. It shares a specific need, a testimonial, a video, or a photo. A photo, friends, a photo. Now remember, these are not stock photos. These are real pictures. I like to build the need and the story on this donate page. I also like a donate page that accepts seamless branded online donations. So what I mean by that is when people click on your donate button, if they get directed to another website because maybe you need that as a CRM to make sure that your donor database is kept clean and wonderful and everything is seamlessly interfaced. That's awesome. But it also has to feel seamless with your website. You should not, I guess you can, you should not just send people over to another page that doesn't look like your organization. It needs to have your logo on it. It needs to have, part of your story on it. That ask, it's got to be there. And I've seen people do this actually where they don't have the ask physically on the donate page. The donate page is clearly asking for a donation. That's what it's for, but it doesn't have the story and the build up there. They do a good job throughout the site of telling the story, and then the button takes you to the spot where you can take the final action. It's like the checkout button, and everything else is reading the product. Oh man, I'm talking about shopping carts, about nonprofit websites and relating them to shopping carts. Okay, so that's kind of crazy, but okay. I'll talk a little bit more about how important that is in a minute. Okay, so regardless though, what happens is when you send someone over to another page to make a donation and it doesn't feel like your normal website, it triggers something in their head and they're like, wait a second, this isn't safe. Maybe I shouldn't do this. This doesn't seem right. You never want them to have that feeling. You want them to be like, oh yeah, cool, now I'm going to make my donation, right? It's great to allow donors to choose how they give. So they might be able to give to a general fund or a specific project or something that's recurring. And if you are allowing them or asking for a very specific donation, then make sure that you include the parameters of that on your donate page. And then when it comes to your actual donation form, you want to ask them for enough information, but not too much information. It is nice to learn another thing, another piece about friends and people donating as they're filling out the form, but don't get too greedy with it. You should get their phone number and you can call and follow up with them later. This donate form should not be an application. It is a donate form. So it needs to be simple, straightforward, easy to use. It needs to show up on the page. It shouldn't be hidden. All these things, right? It needs to work logically. Like if I hit the tab key, can I go from field to field from the top to the bottom of the donate page without a problem? Because if I'm popping all over the place, it doesn't work, friends. Remember, we're asking people to do something that they do every day online now, which is buy something. It just happens that it's going to you and it's a donation. So don't ask them 1,000 questions. Make it short, make it specific. Just ask them for their payment information and allow them to give in a way that is easy and streamlined and branded. Okay, so the next thing, this is number 6, that your nonprofit website should have is things that you update regularly. Okay, so that's very specific, isn't it? So things that you update regularly could be success stories. It could be in news. It could be blog. So there's all kinds of different ways, case studies even, that you can put regularly updated content onto your website. Now, this information, it should not be hidden. It should be on the main navigation. It should be easy for people to see. It's like I have a link for our podcast on the main navigation of our site and our blog because that's my regularly updated content. I don't want to hide it. I'm proud of it. This is how I make new friends with people. And this is how you can make new friends with people too. See, when people are looking for answers, when they're in the middle of this buying journey, they are searching using different words than they do when they're at the end of their buying journey. And the thing about your nonprofit website is your best donors are the people that have similar interests and values to your organization. That's what keeps them around and makes them want to work with you towards this mission. So how do you meet those people? Well, you meet them when they're trying to solve problems for themselves, not necessarily when they're ready to come in and be a volunteer, right? Because you're going to foster these relationships. And you'll meet them through your events and those types of things too, more traditional ways of networking. But to meet them online, we have to first find them, right? So one of the ways that you find them is by offering regularly updated content on your website. So let's say that and this is one of my favorite examples because this is a super easy one to wrap your mind around and understand. Let's say that you have a humane society. So you have lots of dogs up for adoption. Well, one thing that you could do is you could regularly update your content, yes, with animals that are available for adoption, but also with tips for training these animals, whether it's from potty training to leash training, whatever it is, because that's something that people need. They need that information regardless of whether or not they adopted the dog from your facility. And maybe the next time that they adopt a dog, they might come to your facility, but they also might just love you and come to your organization and volunteer with you or make a donation to you because you helped them solve their problems. So it's a way that by regularly updating your website with content about dog training tips, you are finding people who have the same interests and the same values as your organization, right? And there's different examples of this for all different types of organizations. And I will do a podcast about that in the future because dogs and dog training is just a really easy one to wrap your mind around. But you can kind of understand then how it would help you meet new people that would get involved with your organization. So we want that regularly updated content because it helps us meet new people. We also want it because it helps us stay in contact and build relationships with people who we already know, right? So it can fuel our marketing efforts. It can fill in the things that we need to put in our newsletters or in our thank you letters because we can put these stories on our website. And then this information, we want to share it throughout the site. The same way that we share our stories and our proof, our case studies throughout the site, right? So we're going to share it in the way that shopping carts share featured products. Remember how I said that even your nonprofit website is kind of like a shopping cart? Because it is. So there are so many things that we can learn from shopping cart websites. I don't know that I necessarily love building them, though we do build them regularly because they are a little complicated. But so think about the evolution of a website. When you built your first website, odds are pretty good that you were building it and it was a lot like an online brochure. It was a pretty static thing and people didn't have high expectations of what it was supposed to do. And now your website has transformed into this thing that's supposed to actually make people do things. So now your website is a type of sales mechanism for your organization, just like a shopping cart is. And we go to shopping carts all the time and we buy things. We buy extra things. How do they get us to do that, right? Well, some of it is through the basic layout and the way that we purchase things as people, right? So I can't tell you how many times I've been on Amazon and I'm like, man, this thing's really cool, but I wonder, but it doesn't come in blue. I wonder if there's any other ones. And I go down to the featured products and I scroll all the way through the featured products because those are highly related to the thing that I'm looking at. And also it reminds you to do things like buy batteries whenever you're buying the toy, right? And thank you for those reminders because Christmas morning with no batteries is like awful. Not that I've experienced that because my husband is got some keen attention to detail when it comes to these types of things. Like he's the man that when we got the food cart for Aveline, because yes, we got our daughter a food cart for Christmas one year, which is incredibly cute. And she drives around the neighborhood and like serves people hot dogs out of the back of it. Not real hot dogs. They're plastic hot dogs, but it's incredibly cute. Anyway, so he's like, oh my goodness, Monica, she's going to want to like drive this right away. So we need to make sure that battery is charged. And so he like takes it all out of the box and finds the battery and charges it before we give it to her. Incredibly awesome. Anyway, so back to the shopping carts thing. So if you were on a shopping cart and you're looking at pots and pans and it showed you featured products like bed sheets, that wouldn't make any sense, would it? It would be other sets of pots and pans, right? Or reviews of those pots and pans, testimonials about those pots and pans. So think through your website in that same way. For every service, for every target market that you connect with, we want to give them the additional things that they need to be able to make the decision to have a relationship with us. So those testimonials, the success stories, the blog posts, the news articles, all the things that you're publishing, if they are related to the page that that person's on and that would allow them to make a decision to have a relationship with us, they should also be mentioned on that page. And I'm not saying every single one of them because that would be completely overwhelming. We don't want to overwhelm people. That would be lame. However, making sure that you're including the extra pieces that you put in your website on the right pages is really important. You don't just want to have a page of testimonials and then make people go out to the testimonials page and sort through it for the one they want. No. On the service page, you want the testimonials for that service to be on that page because that makes the most sense. That's the way that the shopping cart works. So take notes on how shopping carts work and then try to work that into your website. I could go on about this forever about the whole concept, but I will stop now because I'm going to move on to the very last item on my list. Number 7 is that your website should load quickly. I know people be ignoring this one real hardcore right now. I don't even understand it. Almost every single website that I reviewed was scoring between a 45 and a 59. Tell me, friends, those of you who were who went to school. I mean, probably a lot of you went to school, right? Is a 59 a passing grade even? If your kids brought home a 59, would you be like, yeah, look at that, you're killing it. That's good enough. It looks pretty. No, it doesn't work, friends. It does not work. We got to pay attention to this. And part of it is that, and this is why I'm talking about it with you right now, is that you don't know. You don't know that your website is loading slowly. You might be on a great internet connection at your office, and then you don't even notice that it's loading slow. Or maybe you're patient and you're okay with waiting for it to load because it's your website. But I'm telling you, other people are not patient, and your website should not be taking forever to load. The other reason, so you may not know, you literally may not know it's a problem. And so if you're not pushing on your web developer to make it better, then it's not happening, right? Because they're not worried about it, apparently. Apparently, they're not worried about it. Why are they not worried about it? I don't understand. It's like they don't have a responsibility to you to make your website actually load so people can see it, because you can have the most beautiful website. It can be gorgeous. But if people won't hang out long enough for it to load, it's worthless, right? It's like having a bunch of phone calls come in with no voice message. What? It's like having emails that delete themselves as soon as they come into your inbox. That is what a slow loading website is these days, guys. So we've got to tackle this challenge throughout the web design world. And you as clients, you can push for this change by telling your web developers that you want a quick loading website. And that doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice everything. It means that you need to make reasonable choices and program it correctly so that way it loads quickly. So if you want to know if your website loads quickly or not, you can go visit, I call him my boyfriend, GTmetrix, GT, I wish that I knew the alphabet that pilots use, So G as in girl, T as in toy, metrics. And for free, you can run your website through their grader and it'll let you know how you're doing. And if you're, in that 45 to 59 mark, I think you definitely need to be calling your web designer. And if you're not over 80, you should probably call them too, because there's probably things that you can do to improve that setup. So these are the things that are your nonprofit website must-haves. You need to have a clear mission, clearly stated on your homepage, extremely clear. Next, it has to be easy to use, on a phone and for all human beings, not just yourself. Third, we need to have a story-focused website. Don't use stock photos. Really find the media that you need to tell your story. Tell it in words, tell it in video. Make sure that you are offering that proof to connect and show people how important your mission is. Let them see the faces of the people and that you help. The fifth thing that we need is we need content for each of your target markets. And make sure that you have a page for each of them, for each service, for each type of volunteer work. Really describe it. And then on those pages, you're going to pull in the things that you update regularly to continue that story and really give them that well-rounded experience like you would have on a shopping cart to make the decision that they want to have a relationship with you. You need to have a great donate page. It also needs to come from the story, and it needs to accept seamless, branded online donations. I just mentioned it, but number 6 is things that you update regularly so that you can make relationships with people at the beginning of their buying journey, and then also use that same content to fuel the rest of your marketing and maintain relationships. And then last but not least, I was on my soapbox for number 7, which is a fast loading website. Make sure that you go out and hang out with my boyfriend, GT Metrics. Don't tell my husband about GT. He is really, really cool. I broke up with Page Speed Insights with Google. I broke up with Google's Page Speed Insights for GT because he's really, really cool and he explains how to make the changes that you need to make your website load faster. So go out there, grade your website, make sure that it's fast loading. So I'm just going to list them one more time, right? You need a clear mission. It needs to be easy to use, story-focused, content for each of your target markets, a great donate page, things you update regularly, and load quickly. And that, my friends, is our nonprofit website must-haves. Now, thank you so very much for hanging out with me through this. My cup of coffee is only like half drank because I started talking and now it's just like sitting there staring me in the face. So I really need to consume it. I do want to remind you one more time, though, that if you're in your website building journey, please go on over to megcreate.com. We have plenty of resources there to help you along. If you're at the beginning of your journey and planning out your website, then you'll really enjoy the nonprofit website planning guide and workbook that will tell you how to figure out what to put on your site and will introduce MegCreate's 5-phase planning process that we've been using to plan websites for almost 20 years now. And then if you're further along in your journey and you want to know how much a website costs, you can use our website cost calculator that'll spit out an estimate for you and give you the details of why. And you don't even have to talk to a MegCreator to get it. You just fill out the parameters of your website and voila, pricing served. All right. So with that, my friends, thank you so very much for your time today and go forth, market with purpose.